Baraka Bint Thalaba or Ayman radiallahu anha. If you are looking for an important Muslim African woman to talk about, look no further than the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the woman he described as his mother after my own mother. She is the race of my family. We don't know precisely how the young Egyptian girl ended up herself in Mecca. We don't know her roots, who her mother was, or her father, or her ancestor. There were many like her, boys and girls, Arabs and non-Arabs, who were captured and brought to the slave market of the city to be sold. A terrible fate awaited some who ended up in the hands of cruel masters or mistresses who exploited their labor to full and treated them with the utmost harshness. A few in that inhuman environment were rather more fortunate. They were taken into the homes of more gentle and caring people. Baraka, the young Egyptian girl, was one of the more fortunate ones. She was saved by the generous and kind Allah, the son of Abdul Muttalib. She became the only servant in his household, and when he was married to the Lady Amina, she looked after her affairs as well. She was the woman whom the noble prophet esteemed so highly. She was the first person to hold him in her arms when he was born, and the only person who knew him from that point until his death. She was one of the few Muslims who the Prophet assured of a place in the paradise. Be mother to him, Baraka, and don't ever leave him. Aminah instructed her about her son as she lay dying. Ayman didn't fail in her responsibility. It was Ayman who slept at the foot of Aminah's bed and comforted her when, only 2 weeks after her wedding, her husband was instructed to leave for that journey to Syria, after which he never came back. It was Ayman who took care of Aminah during her pregnancy. It was Ayman who gave Aminah the news of her husband's death at Yathrib, what was later to be known as Medina. As the Prophet faced tragedy, human tragedy, Ayman was there for him. From the time when his mother died when he was 6, to when his grandfather Abdul Muttalib died when he was 8, Ayman stayed with the Prophet. It was only after the Prophet married Khadijah, may Allah be pleased with her, that she married, and that too their insistence. She married Ubayn ibn Jaid from the Khazraj tribe of the Yathrib, and they had a son named Ayman. That's why we call her Ayman. When the Prophet received the prophethood, Ayman was among the first Muslims. How could she fail to do so when she knew Muhammad's character from the first day of his life? She knew that he never said a lie, and like the others, bravely faced the punishment of the Quraysh from those who dared to believe in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. She and Jain ibn Hartha, another companion who lived in the Prophet household, put their lives on the line to find out about the plots and conspiracies on pagan Mecca against the Prophet and the Muslims. During the Battle of Uhud, she gave out water to thirsty soldiers and took care of the wounded. She accompanied the Prophet on some expeditions. She tied her well-being to that of Islam. During a visit from the Prophet, he asked, "Ya Ummi, are you well?" And she would reply, "I am well, O Messenger of Allah, so long as Islam is." Ayman's husband died not very long after their marriage. One day, the Prophet ﷺ, when speaking to his companions, said, "Should one of you desire to marry a woman from the people of paradise, let him marry Ayman." It was Zayd ibn al-Harith who stepped forward and agreed to marry her. They had a son named Usama, who was described as the beloved son of the beloved. In other words, the Prophet loved both he and his father. Usama grew to be one of the commanding leaders of the Muslim army and the youngest general to be appointed by the Prophet ﷺ. One of example of Ayman's dedication to Islam and the Prophet was when she trekked across the burning desert sandstorm on foot from Mecca to Medina to join the Prophet. Despite the hardness of the journey through, she persisted and was given good news when she reached her destination. When she got to Medina, swollen path dust covered her face and all. The Prophet said to her, "Ya Ayman, Ya Ummi, in that for you is a place in paradise," exclaimed the Prophet ﷺ when he saw her. He wiped her face and eyes, massaged her face and rubbed her shoulder with his kind and gentle hands. She became a widow again, after Zayd was killed during the Battle of Mu'tah in Syria. She also lived to see her elder sons martyred at the Battle of Hunayn. Ayman lived to see her older son die as well, the Prophet ﷺ. After the Prophet ﷺ had passed away, Abu Bakr and Umar visited her, just like the Prophet ﷺ used to visit her. They wanted to inquire after her as they knew how the Prophet cared for her. When they were with her, she cried. They tried to console her, saying that the Prophet's position with God was better than life on earth. She told them that she was fully aware of that, and it wasn't for the loss of the Prophet that she wept. She wept because revelation from high had chased it. They admire her answer and wept with her. This is a far-sighted view, recognizing that the revelation meant much for that first Muslim community, ensuring that God's care was ready for them. With the Prophet gone and revelation chased, they were left to look after themselves. It is important to note that Ayman was one of the first black Muslim women in Islam, and she played a key role in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He, the Prophet, respected and honored her like his own mother, as she was his caretaker. She was even given the glad tidings of paradise. Muslims today should also hold her in high regard and recognize her race. Unfortunately, because racism still exists in many communities, including the Muslim one, people are quick to pin stereotypes of those unlike themselves. We forget that the words of the Prophet ﷺ for his last sermon, An Arab has no superiority over an unknown Arab, nor non-Arab has any superiority over an Arab. Also, a white has no superiority over black, nor a black has any superiority over white except by pity and good action. To truly live by these words, we need to bury the preconceived illusions we hold of people, and realize they were the building blocks of this religion from the get-go. Baraka was unique in that she was only one who was so close to the Prophet ﷺ throughout his life from birth till death. Her life was one of selfless service in the Prophet ﷺ household. She remained deeply devoted to the person of the noble, gentle, and caring Prophet. Above all, her devotion to the religion of Islam was strong and unshakable. The exact date of Ayman that is unclear. Some have suggested that she died approximately 5 months after Muhammad's death, but according to Ibn Sa'ad, she was alive in the early days of the caliphate of Uthman radiallahu. Her roots were unknown, but her place in paradise was assured.